Welcome to the Diverse Minds podcast, where we give you the tips, tools and techniques you need to be a mentally healthy and inclusive leader. Each week, you'll hear about a variety of topics linked to mental health, wellbeing and diversity that will enhance both your professional practice and personal wellbeing.
Welcome to the 55th episode of the Diverse Minds podcast. And on today's episode, as part of Self-Care September, I'm going to be talking about creating, adapting, and having a routine to support your self-care. Often self-care has a bad reputation, or the word has now, a response that often invokes a big sigh. When I talk about self-care, what I mean is taking practical action to look after your physical, mental, and social well-being, and how doing this regularly helps us during times of stress and enables us to build some resilience when things might get tough again. September has been dubbed Self-Care September, and the Action for Happiness have a great calendar you can download and use for daily actions during the month, and the link's in the show notes. It's all very well talking about self-care, but how can you, do you, or should you make time for health when we're all so stretched and work and family commitments have to take priority? Well, September has been a period of readjustment, and I would say it's time to prioritise yourself and your health so that you can look after yourself and move forward and do the things you need to do and be a carer in the way that you need to. So whether that's caring for younger dependents, older dependents, your friends, or any other caring that you do, could also be pets. It's important to think about what's going to work for you and the things you can do and what you have control of. So firstly, I just wanted to give you a little recap about mental health as well, in the broader perspective of self-care. So mental health is a person's condition with regards to their psychological and emotional well-being. It affects how we think, feel and act. It determines how we handle stress, relate to others and make choices. Our mental health will also impact on our self-esteem, how we see ourselves and how we see others. And it enables us to create, form and sustain all the different types of relationships we have in our lives. Now, of course, we all know that our mental health has been and is tested when we experience unexpected changes that we haven't planned for. And I think you'll agree with me when I say the last 6 months have really been testament to this. Working at home overnight, not being able to see friends and family regularly and in an environment and context that we're used to. Not being able to travel or not being able to travel without fear of quarantine or feeling uneasy when we go out, a disruption to routine, global grief, and as you know, something that's very dear to my heart, video call burnout. And also we would have been through an adaptation cycle where our energy levels over the last 6 months have been going up and down. So if you remember, and when lockdown started in the UK on the 23rd of March, and of course, we all know it should have started earlier. But you might have experienced something like initial anxiety, but also relief. So anxiety about what was happening, what was going on, the information, what did this really mean? But potentially relief as well, because maybe you didn't have to commute into work anymore. You felt more comfortable working from home. You could spend more time with your family. Then maybe anxiety again, as you thought about having to homeschool, what that would mean, how you juggle homeschooling with your work. And then potentially relief if maybe some of you were furloughed, again anxiety, but then relief as to, well, at least I could have some time off and I don't need to worry about emails. So it will be different for different people, but there would have been a phase of anxiety and relief. Then the second phase might have been the honeymoon stage. So, oh gosh, I feel quite relieved in a sense, or I feel quite happy with this. It's really nice not to commute. I feel really happy. I get to be with my family. I can switch off the computer at 5 o'clock. I've enjoyed spending time with if you've got any children or younger dependents. I've actually enjoyed having a break and not having to adhere to social commitments. And then the third stage, a process of adjustment. Oh, so your energy levels might dip again. Oh, actually, I do miss the way things were. I do miss seeing colleagues. I'm sick of doing everything online, whatever it is. And that will also be a period of up and down. And then if you'd been furloughed, it might be that you got into the swing of things. And then the fourth thing is returning anxiety. If you've been furloughed, or even if you haven't been furloughed and you're going back to the office, or your children are returning to school, the returning anxiety where your energy levels might drop again. So thinking, oh my goodness, how am I going to do this? I'm concerned about my child going back to school. How might they feel? I don't know. Is it really safe for me to commute? I've got family members that are shielding. Should I be getting on a train? I don't really want to drive that far to work, whatever it is. And then I think later on, depending what happens with the pandemic, there might be a phase of integration. Now, these feelings are going to keep us off centre. We have to manage these. And of course, it's not a linear journey. Now, it could sound counterintuitive to you, or it may make complete sense, but developing a daily routine can help us feel more in control of the day-to-day. It enables us to prioritise what is important, and by having or adapting a routine, it can also help us cope with change and form healthy habits to manage and reduce our stress levels. So that feeling of transitioning back and forth and how it makes us feel. If we have some kind of routine, even though it might have to shift, we can have that sense of control despite what might be happening to us. So the first thing I wanted to mention around creating a routine is the 168 method to manage your time. And I suggest you probably take some time out to think about how you spend your time. The 168 method was created by Laura Vanderkam, and it's a way to track your time to see where your time is spent. You can then establish what is taking up your time and plan your routine accordingly. And it's called the 168 method because there are 168 hours in a week. So first of all, what I would do is say to you, start a grid with 168 hours and minus time for key activities. So first, take out sleeping, ideally not less than 7 hours per night. So let's say you are aiming, or you do sleep 8 hours a night times 7 nights a week, that's 56 hours, minus from 168, you get 112. Then next you've got working. That's 8 hours a day. I'm just doing this for a typical example. I know many of you will work much harder than this or different shifts, but let's say it's 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, that's 40 hours, minus 112, which was the sleep that we took from 168 to give you 72 hours. Then it might have been that you have been doing cooking, so you've had to cook every evening. So maybe that takes you 2 hours by the time you've washed up, times 7 is 14, minus it from 72. You get the gist. Then take away eating, chores, any family support you do, homework, caring responsibilities, all your core activities, minus them as you go along. And just make a simple grid, 3 sort of columns at the top, activity, time taken per week, and minus from 168. And then the time you're left with is the time that you have for yourself. And you could also compare, if you've been furloughed or if you've been working at home and now you're going back to work, you could compare pre and post furlough activities, or pre and post going to the office. Or again, if your children have gone to school, you can then factor in, have you got some of that time back, or does the time look different? So once you've done that, you can then think about how you want to use the time you have and create moments to support your wellbeing and resilience as you transition back, or this time for Self-Care September. Whether that's working at home or in an office or on site or remotely or doing visits, whatever your daily work pattern is. Then what I would suggest you do to think about how your routine can help you is divide your day into 3 sections. So the morning, the afternoon, and the evening. And if this is tricky for you, I'd really like to share with you my Shape Your New Routine checklist that you can use to help you. I've included a link in the show notes, and I'll say more at the end of the show. So firstly, thinking about the morning and waking up. If you can decide what time you want to wake up, great. Ideally a time that works for you, but I do realise that it might not be that simple. It might be decided by your younger dependents' work or other commitments. Then, can you just build in 5 or 10 minutes to do some gentle exercise, even if it's just stretching? Take some deep breaths, do some mindfulness, any kind of gentle exercise. If you've got time to go for a quick brisk walk, that's brilliant. Then you might like to discuss the things you achieved from the day before. So this is not just a to-do list, but a have-done list. So what are the things that you got done the day before to motivate you and to make you realise that you can do it? Then think about setting really 2 focused tasks or goals that you'd like to achieve for the day. And plan some short regular breaks every 50 to 60 minutes to keep that focus and make sure that you achieve those goals that you want to do for the day. Now, of course, you're very welcome to have more tasks, but 2 key things that you absolutely want to achieve is realistic and enables you to keep that motivation going. Then in the afternoon, can you take a short walk, get some movement in, or do some stretching? I was also talking about just putting a track on, your favourite piece of music, on really loud and dancing around the room, because that gives us a break and it means that your body is moving. Have your lunch, make sure that you're having things that nourish you and help your brain to focus in the afternoon. Might you like to do a short 5 to 10 meditation? Add to your have done list if you've managed to achieve things in the day. And decide on tasks that you want to focus on for the rest of the day. Now, you might have had some good intentions and things might have come in the way, so some urgent things. Reprioritise and use the afternoon to do this. And then finally in the evening, set a time to stop for the day if you can. It is difficult, especially if you're still working at home, even if you've got space, to demarcate the actual physical time and space to stop working, because it's very easy to just keep going. People don't leave the office. We don't have that sense of the day finishing. If you haven't managed to go out for daily exercise, try and make the time to go out for a walk. Even things like watering any plants in the house, balcony, garden, and it really makes a difference as it gives you a chance to notice the differences each day as you nourish your plants. Take a creative or online workshop or dance around your room, do some painting, write, journal, whatever you do. Decide on what you want to have for dinner, whether you do meal plans or be spontaneous, have a look in the fridge. And also remember things that will nourish you and help you and also help you sleep well. If you've got children or younger dependents, put them to bed or decide what time to sleep. And again, I realise it's not that simple. They're not dolls. You can't just put them to sleep. But decide on the routine that you want to do and what time you start that. And then add or start to a gratitude journal to list what you're thankful for each day. So before you go to sleep, do that. And you might also like to turn your phone off an hour before bed to reduce the blue light, which will help you get a better sleep. Now, these may seem like very simple, small steps, but it is in fact the small practical steps that we take that can really help our well-being and our self-care and let us focus on our own health and social well-being. And remember, we're still in a period of flux, and that's okay. Think about how you want to shape your routine and what's going to work for you. You know, I always say this, it's not one size fits all. So if something's been useful for you, take that, adapt it and make it yours. Be realistic about what you can do. This isn't about being, as someone once said, a vegan yoga angel every single day. This is about taking the things that you want to do, and perhaps you then split it up. Maybe Monday you do meditation, Wednesday you go for a walk, Friday you cook a dinner that's a bit more lavish than you would in the rest of the week. And that's great. So find the things that are going to work for you. 4, maybe you won't be able to achieve your goals and it's frustrating, but often we just have to sit with that discomfort and annoyance and think about how we can be boundaried and say no to people and ring fence some of our time. And 5thly, make a plan to do something small for you. So one of the things I talk about is taking that time for you. Can you put it in your diary? If you like a paper diary, a calendar or a to-do list, if you write it down, it's more likely to happen. So I hope you've found this useful. And if you would like some help, you can download my Shape Your New Routine checklist. I've split it up as I have in this podcast episode into the morning, the afternoon and the evening. And you can download it at bit.ly, that's bit.ly/DMSYNR. So that's bit.ly/DMSYNR. And if you can't remember that, the link's in the show notes. And I also really want to offer you a raw assessment for wellbeing. I'm offering RAW, which stands for Wellbeing and Resilience at Work, to help you identify where your strengths are and what you might need to focus on for your wellbeing over the next year at half price for £150 with the coaching session plus VAT. So do get in touch for a 30-minute call, a free 30-minute call, to find out more and see how RAW can help you. And you can book a convenient time on my Calendly. That's calendly.com/LaylaO/30 minutes. And again, the link's in the show notes. I very much look forward to speaking to you and hope this has been useful to get you started or reflecting on your self-care journey. And I really look forward to seeing you in the next episode. I've also included some resources. So the Action for Happiness Self-Care calendar for September, a podcast about movement and self-care September, a podcast on resilience and mental health, and my blog about personal resilience training. So until the next episode, where we'll be talking about creating culturally safe spaces, I'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Diverse Minds podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you access your podcasts from. You can also connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Tune into next week's episode of the podcast, where I'll bring you more insights on mental health and inclusion. Bye for now.